In this episode, I'm going to talk about a highly famous extensive form game, which is also known as Rubinstein's alternating offer bargaining game. So here's how his model works. There are two players who are negotiating about how to split $1. So a few remarks. We can extend this game to more than two players. But most of the negotiations we probably think of are actually bilateral, right? I mean, there are two sides. And so it's not a big deal. And then the second important point is this splitting dollars. Why is it $1? Well, I mean, we usually think of this bargaining problems as players are splitting a surplus, and then we normalize it to 1. And so 1 is really just without loss of generality. If you are thinking of a buyer and seller negotiation, so let's suppose there's a seller who would like to sell his digital camera at a price $1,000, all right? And then let's suppose there's a buyer and the buyer's maximum willingness to pay is known to be $1,500, all right? So everybody knows, buyer and the seller, that he is actually willing to pay up to $1,500. So what does that mean? In this case, obviously in reality, by the way, the seller usually doesn't know the buyer's valuation, all right? And similarly, the buyer doesn't know the seller's valuation. But given that the seller already posted a price, it kind of signals his willingness to pay, right? So, but anyway, let's suppose, so if those valuations are private information, well, then that means this is actually a game with incomplete information. And so we're not looking at those type of games yet. So we are looking games with complete information. So for that reason, I know it's a strong assumption, but let's assume everybody knows those. This is the buyer's maximum willingness to pay, the seller's sort of willingness to buy, and this is maximum willingness to sell. So here in this environment, actually, there is a $500 amount of surplus to be divided if these two guys negotiate about the price. So for example, if they agree on a price, say $1,300, well, then that means the buyer is actually going to receive $200 worth of surplus, and then the seller is going to receive $1,300 minus $1,000, $300 of surplus. So they add up to 500. All right, so if the price is higher than $1,300, that means the surplus of the buyer will shrink and the surplus of the seller will increase. So this 500,000 doesn't matter. The idea is that in this bargaining game, the size of the surplus is known by both players, and we just normalize it to be 1. Okay? So what matters is that the size is fixed, all right? Whether you normalize it to 1 or not. And then the second thing is that the one player's additional surplus gain is the other player's loss. All right, so it's a kind of a zero-sum game, kind of. All right, what else? The time of this game runs from t equals 0 and goes all the way up to infinity, meaning the game may actually never end. Well, how is the timing? Well, time starts with player 1. So at time t equals 0, player 1 makes an offer, and then he makes an offer if the game is not yet over every even periods, and then player 2 makes offers only on odd periods. So it's alternating offer bargaining game in that sense. What does that mean? That means in t equals 0, player 1 makes an offer. It's like, I get X, you get 1 minus X. And then immediately after that, observing this offer, player 2 can accept this decision or reject. If she accepts, she's gonna get 1 minus X, and player 1 is gonna get X. If she rejects, the game moves on to the next period. The next period, time t equals 1, player 2 makes an offer this time. Same thing, he offers some X to player 1, 1 minus X to herself, and then player 1 can accept or reject this offer. If he accepts, the game is over. If he rejects, the game moves on to period 2. And then the game basically continues like this forever. So the game will end if any one of those players accept any of the offers. Well, If the game ends at some time t with this offer x1 minus x, well, obviously player 1 is going to discount, because it really matters whether we make an agreement today or say after a few hours or a few days maybe. So therefore, each player discounts time with a discount factor delta 1, delta 2. These guys are some number in between 0 and 1. And remember, we use the discount factors in repeated games. So the higher the discount factor, the more patient the players are. And the lower the discount factor, it means they really care about having the agreement right now. So they're more impatient. So player 1's payoff then is going to be delta 1 to the power t times x, his share. And then player 2's payoff is going to be delta 2 to the power t times 1 minus x. So the players are risk neutral, because if they get x unit of surplus, their utility is also x, and same for player 2. Okay, so that's the timing of the game. In this game, in this Infinite Horizon game, there are there are many Nash equilibrium strategies. But there's a unique subgame perfect Nash equilibrium, and I'm going to talk about this SPNE next episode. What I would like to do now is just a simpler version and see what would happen if this game is actually repeated only twice, not infinitely many times. So player 1 makes an offer. Remember, he can offer anything basically between 0 and 1. I mean, offering something more than 1 makes no sense. Offering something less than 0 makes no sense. So he can offer anything between 0 and 1. So let's say he offers x to himself and 1 minus x to his opponent. Well, at this point, player 2 will observe, and she's going to accept or reject this decision. If she accepts, the payoffs are going to be x for player 1, 1 minus x for player 2. If she rejects, however, well, the game moves on to the the period 1, because this is period 0, and this time player 2 is going to make an offer. So she can offer anything between 0 to 1. Right? And let's say she offers y, 1 minus y. All right? I don't know why I used a different letter, but let's say it's y and 1 minus y. Then player 1 this time observes this offer, and he accepts or rejects. If he accepts, well, the payoffs are going to be y and 1 minus y. If he rejects, okay. So remember I said, let's look at a simpler version where the game continues only 2 periods. So therefore, the game has to end. And so this is a terminal history. So we have to assign some payoffs here. What if the game ends at this point where player 1 rejected, and actually they couldn't make any agreement? Well, this is the end of the game. So we assume that both players are going to get 0 payoff. Sort of symmetrically in this game, if this game negotiation continues forever, which is not going to happen in equilibrium, but if it continues up to forever, meaning it never stops, we assume that the payoffs of each player are going to be 0. Okay? Which makes sense, because, even if you get the whole surplus, you're going to discount it so, much that delta to the power kind of infinite. So your payoff is going to be 0. All right, so how do we find the subgame perfect Nash equilibrium in this game? Well, very simple. Because this is a perfect information game, just use the backward induction. Meaning, look at the longest history, which basically is just 1. Player 1 is making an offer, accept or reject. If he accepts, he's going to get y. Y. And if he rejects, he's going to get 0. So the question is, obviously, here in this picture, there's one longest history, but there are actually infinitely many, because player 2 may be offering something other than y. For example, x, 1 minus x, a, 1 minus a. You see what I mean? You can change y between 0 and 1, and then we have another history. Well, here, the optimal thing for player 1 is obviously, regardless of x and y, I'm sorry about this. For any x and y, player 1 should accept any y greater than or equal to 0, right? If y is positive, you should definitely accept it anyway. I mean, if you reject, you're going to get 0 anyhow. So here, the only tricky part is, what if y is exactly equal to 0? Should I accept? Should I not? Well, I'm indifferent. All right? It is irrelevant for equilibrium calculations, but if you like, we can assume without loss of generality that whenever players are indifferent between accepting and rejecting an offer, we assume that they're going to accept it. Okay? Again, this is irrelevant assumption, but you can assume this. And trust me, it is not going to change the equilibrium calculations, equilibrium predictions. All right, so in all those subgames, there are infinitely many of them. The optimal strategy for player 1 is therefore to accept any offer. All right. Well, now let's look at player 2. What offer is he going to make? Is it x1 minus x, y1 minus y, x different than y, right? I mean, should I offer 1? Should I offer 0? So here's the thing. If as a player 2, if I offer this guy any positive number, he's going to accept that. If I offer him 0, he will accept that too. Well, offering him 0 means getting the entire cake to myself, or the entire dollar to myself. So obviously the optimal strategy, there's a unique optimal strategy, which is player 2 offers y equals 0 to his opponent, and then player 1 is going to accept this. So this is basically what would happen in period 2. Remember, this is period 1. So in period 1, player 2 is going to offer nothing to his opponent, player 1. And player 1 is going to accept that. That's it. Well, now we move upwards. Now, however, we are in period 0. So be careful. Each period, right? So these are periods. So each period is discounted. So whatever payoff those guys get here are going to be discounted. So what is the payoff they're going to get if the game ever comes to this part, meaning to the first period? Well, player 2 is going to offer y equals 0. Player 1 is going to accept it. Well, the outcome of this, therefore, is that player 1's payoff will be 0. Player 2's payoff will be 1. However, when they look at these payoffs in period 0, think of this as like, this is what happens today. So we negotiate, and this is what happens tomorrow. So today I can make offer, I'm player 1, and if you reject this, you can make offer only tomorrow, and waiting a day is a little bit costly. I mean, it's not exactly sort of reduce down your payoff to 0, but it's going to cost you. So therefore, getting 0 and 1 tomorrow is equivalent to getting 0 times delta to the power 1, delta 1 to the power 1, and 1 times delta 2 to the power 1. Okay? So, meaning you don't really need to multiply them. So this is 0 and this is delta 2. So if the game moves on to the first period, the payoffs are going to be as this: 0 for player 1, delta 2 for player 2. So the question is, what is player 2 going to do at this point? So he is now facing an offer x, all right? And so if he accepts, he's going to get 1 minus x. If he rejects, he's going to get delta 2. So when is he going to accept and when is he going to reject? Well, that depends on x value, obviously. So 2 accepts, obviously, whenever 1 minus x is greater than or equal to, remember, whenever she's indifferent, she's going to accept. So 1 minus x is greater than or equal to delta 2. So that means 2 accepts any offer as long as this offer is less than or equal to 1 minus delta 2. So given that we established the optimal strategy of player 2 here, what is the optimal strategy of player 1? What is he going to offer? Well, he knows that if he offers anything higher than 1 minus delta 2, player 2 will be so happy to accept it. And in fact, she is going to accept, I'm sorry. So if player 1 offers some x less than 1 or equal to 1 minus delta 2, well then 2 will accept, right? This is exactly what we established here. And if player 1 offers x greater than 1 minus delta 2, well, 2 will reject. So, okay, so if player 1 offers x something, x less than or equal to 1 minus delta 2, 2 will accept. In this case, what's going to be the payoff of player 1? Obviously x itself, right? Well, what if I offer something greater than 1 minus delta 2? In this case, I know player 2 is going to reject. But what's going to happen then? Well, I'm not going to get x. Why? Well, because player 2 rejected my offer today, the game will move on to the next period. And next period, tomorrow, she is going to make an offer. And I know what payoff I'm going to end up in this game, which is 0. Remember, I erased, well, here you go, I summarized it. So if she rejects my offer today, I'm going to end up getting 0 tomorrow, which is equivalent to 0 today. So therefore, in this case, U1 is going to be 0. So therefore, obviously, I should be offering, as a player 1, I should be offering some x which is non-zero, right? So any x is going to be better than x greater than 1 minus delta 2. But the thing is, meaning I have to offer in this range. I mean, I can offer x as big as possible, okay? But I can't go beyond 1 minus delta 2. If I do, my payoff will be immediately dropped. So if you want, you can graph this entire thing. We don't really need this game tree anymore. You can think of player 1's offer x here and his payoff u1. So this is 1 minus delta 2 is the critical point. So if he offers something less than this, all right, so in this range, his payoff will be increasing with x. So this is 1 minus delta 2. So this is his payoff. And then once he hits 1 minus delta 2, his payoff is exactly, this is x, all right? So x is 1 minus delta 2, well, his payoff will be 1 minus delta 2. But once his offer is beyond 1 minus delta 2, his payoff will drop down to 0, okay? So this is his payoff function given his opponent's continuation strategies. So the question is, what is the payoff maximizing offer for me? Well, obviously x equals 1 minus delta 2. So therefore, let's summarize. In this 2-period game, remember player 1 moves first. Player 1 will offer x equals 1 minus delta 2, and 2 will accept immediately and finish the game. The game is not going to move on to the next period. So therefore, the payoffs at the end of the game is going to be 1 minus delta 2 for player 1 and delta 2 for player 2. I did not specify the entire strategies, but if you just the subgame perfect Nash equilibrium strategy profile would be player 1 is going to offer this in period 1, and he is, remember his strategies in period 2, and in period 2 he is going to accept any offer. And for player 2 in period 1 is going to accept delta 2. The offer x equals 1 minus alpha delta 2, and she is going to reject any offer higher than this, any offer higher than 1 minus delta 2. And in period 2, she is going to offer 1 for herself. So that strategy profile is subgame perfect Nash equilibrium, and that is the outcome which corresponds to that strategy profile.